Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. So, I'm going to try and live up to the epic precedent set by the previous few videos, which are awesome. Go and check them out if you haven't already. And today, I'm going to talk about the basically almost most powerful being in the Star Wars universe. Just the coolest, cool, super evil, so bad, but insane power of Darth Sidious, a.k.a. Emperor Palpatine, a.k.a. Chancellor Palpatine. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you like a quick run through, and if we have time, I'm going to try and bring in just some of the cool things about him, because he's just like insane. But so Palpatine was born on the planet of Naboo, and as a young man, he enjoyed collecting Sith artifacts. Basically, through that, he met the infamous Darth Plagueis, who sensed the power in him and took him on as his apprentice. In this process, Sidious then, or at the time Palpatine, then killed his whole family. Hence, Plagueis gave him the name Darth Sidious. Yeah, so very evil, very messed up, but very, very powerful. And Sidious / Palpatine then sort of gradually cultivated his two different personas of Palpatine and Darth Sidious, Lord Sidious. But yeah, basically they then sort of side by side these characters developed, and Palpatine got involved in politics on Naboo, eventually becoming a member of the Galactic Senate. But this was all happening on his political career, while at the same time as his Sith career progressed, he gradually grew more and more powerful, and eventually, under the training of Darth Plagueis, he became more powerful than Plagueis himself, and ended up killing him. Being a Sith Lord is dangerous, people. Remember that. Apprentices tend to, yeah, it's dangerous stuff. Anyway, he moved then to being the Sith Lord, the Dark Lord himself, not Voldemort. And he basically then was the architect of what would become the Clone Wars, but started with the droid invasions in the Phantom Menace, where he was manipulating the Separatists on one side, and at the same time sort of being a prominent member of Republican politics on the other. So he basically maneuvered a situation where Naboo, his home planet, got invaded. This prompted a vote of no confidence in the Chancellor at the time of the Senate, and Palpatine took over, then was voted in as Chancellor of the Galactic Senate. And then the Clone Wars began, which he had sort of instigated himself, and set up years and years before, and now was doing through his very sinister new apprentice, Darth Tyrannus, a.k.a. Count Dooku. Spoilers. Darth Tyrannus. And yeah, so Sidious then, as Chancellor Palpatine, sort of controlled the Republican side of the clones, sort of fighting back against the Separatist droid armies, which while at the same time controlling the Separatists as Darth Sidious. So Palpatine, Sidious, same person, like playing both sides of a chessboard. Yeah. So then comes, that's sort of the Attack of the Clones era, and all the time he develops a very close relationship with Anakin Skywalker, who he senses an incredible power within. Well, everyone does, because, yeah, remember, the midichlorians and all that nonsense. Yeah, so then moving on to sort of Revenge of the Sith era, and you have a time when basically Palpatine takes on these emergency powers granted him by the Galactic Senate, which are, he puts on the whole Democracy Act. I take on this burden, but obviously it's been his whole plan all along. And then at the end of Revenge of the Sith is when he instigates the Order 66, and all the clones turn and attack the Jedis. And he ends up basically eliminating the Jedis from the galaxy, except for one or two in various corners, as you'll know if you've watched the sequel trilogies. And then he continues the Galactic Senate for a while, but declares himself Emperor. And in A New Hope, we see them say, not him himself, but his, I think, yeah, his subsidiaries say that that the Galactic Senate has been dissolved and he's now the supreme emperor without a senate. They were just a figurehead anyway, really, at that point. And he exerts his sort of control over the whole galaxy, and this time has corrupted Anakin, who has become Darth Vader now, his new apprentice. And so he is the mind behind the Death Stars, and he didn't sort of count on Luke coming and destroying the first one. But Luke finds out Darth Vader is his father. All that stuff happens. That's not related too much to Sidious until Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, when Sidious actually tries to corrupt Luke and turn him against his father and have him come on as his new apprentice. It's sort of a win-win situation there for Sidious, because he kind of senses that Vader still has some light inside of him. He's not fully turned to the dark side. There's a little bit of a light somewhere deep inside of him. And so he kind of thinks, well, look, if Vader kills Luke, great, I've still got Vader. If Luke kills Vader, he'll turn to the dark side, because he's sort of given in to his hate and his rage and all that. So now we sort of, Episode 6, this whole thing happens, doesn't actually count on Vader turning then when he's torturing Luke with his Force lightning, and Vader sort of picks him up and chucks him down the shaft and kills him, we think. And he doesn't count that. So that's the first death of Darth Sidious, which he didn't actually die. So yeah, basically Sidious he did die in a way. He had made a contingency plan, being the evil genius that he was, and he sent his consciousness, his spirit, to a clone proxy that had been made by Sith eternal cultists, which is a cult that worship the Sith, and began to sort of grow again in this clone body in Exegon, which was an ancient Sith stronghold, and is the throne of the Dark Lord of the Sith there. And his followers had been doing all these weird things with gene cloning and all that stuff, and had sort of to create a sort of suitable body for him to move into. But he was very hurt after that, so he was very weak and hadn't never fully recovered his strength, but he was in the background controlling one of his gene clone creations, the deformed Dark Lord Snoke, who sort of led the Final Order as his sort of proxy leader. Everyone thought he was the actual leader, but actually Sidious was kind of controlling him from behind the scenes. And basically, in the end, and now we get to Episode 9, and with Rey going to Exegon, and he tries to seduce her to the dark side, and this is when she finds out that she is in fact his granddaughter, the daughter of one of the clones made of him as his son, who hadn't had his Force abilities or anything, and had run away and ended up marrying another woman and having Rey. So Rey is his granddaughter, and he tries to corrupt her and bring her to the dark side of the Force, and she has, he can sense the power in her, which is similar to the power in him, but she isn't corrupted, and she calls on the spirits of past Jedis to help her. And at this point, Sidious tries to draw on her strength, her strength and Kylo Ren's strength to bring himself back, and it's working. But she ends up defeating him. And at this point, Sidious unleashed his favorite Force lightning, and drawing on the strength of the Jedis that had gone before her, she used her lightsabers to deflect it back on him, and he basically ended up killing himself. In that way, she didn't actually kill him and didn't give in to her hate and her rage and move to the dark side, which was kind of his plan. But this, as far as we know, is the final demise of Darth Sidious, Emperor Palpatine, Sheev Palpatine as he was born. And yeah, that's about as much. That's a very, very, very bits and pieces story of Palpatine. And I've gone way over my time already, but he is his story is just so crazy, so long, and so complex that I could spend 2-3 hours talking about it. It's such an interesting, deep story. It's so twisted and crazy. But I just want to quickly say some crazy things about how powerful he is. So basically, Palpatine is just insanely powerful when it comes to lightsabers, and this is one of the coolest things. He's ambidextrous, and he has become a master of all 6 forms of lightsaber dueling with both hands and with every type of lightsaber. So he can do everything. But after the time of the Revenge of the Sith, he basically sort of decided that he was too powerful to really need a lightsaber anymore. He could just use the Force. So he just kept one on him, and it was mostly just to torture Jedis with. And yeah, he was sort of sadistic that way. He would sort of give them lightsabers and say, kill each other, and whichever one of you is there, you can live. And then they would obviously try and attack him, and he would just kill them all with his lightsaber. So it was just part of his sort of thing, but he didn't really need it, and he figured he didn't need it because he was so powerful with the Force. And he was insanely powerful. Probably the only person who was as powerful as him with the Force was Yoda. And it was, even Yoda really struggled. So Sidious is just brutal and powerful and insanely evil, but a really crazy cool character at the same time. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm sorry I've gone way over time. It has been awesome chatting, and I wish I could do way more and have way more time, but it's one of those things. You could make 50 episodes this long and still have stuff to talk about.